Clyde was a threat. I'm not saying he wasn't a threat, but me being compared to him, I took offense to that. To have a big guy of his size to be in the top 10 in steals, now you can assume that he would be in blocks, which to me shows versatility of what type of guy he really was.
That is a foul. I know he's not the Jordan.
And that earns him the technical.
January 11th, 1997. The Houston Rockets walked into the United Center with 3 future Hall of Famers and the aura of a super team. To many, this was the matchup basketball had been waiting for. A team with enough star power to finally test Michael Jordan's Chicago Bulls. But what unfolded wasn't just another primetime clash. It was another reminder that no matter how many stars lined up against him, Jordan still ruled the game. By this point in his career, Jordan had already secured his place as the standard of greatness. Every player in the league measured themselves against him, and every so-called challenger was judged by how they fared against number 23. The Rockets, with Hakeem Olajuwon patrolling the paint, Clyde Drexler slashing from the wing, and Charles Barkley bringing his bruising energy, seemed tailor-made for that test. This wasn't some up-and-coming squad. They were veterans with championships, MVPs, and Olympic golds. They came in with a reputation for toughness and the belief that together they could shake the Bulls dynasty. But for Jordan, these nights were fuel. He thrived when the spotlight tilted toward his opponents. He wanted the challenge, the pressure, the whispers that maybe someone else had finally caught up. Because more often than not, those nights turned into stages for his brilliance. In this game, the Rockets came in looking to prove they belonged in the same breath as the Bulls. Instead, Jordan reminded the world why the crown was still firmly on his head.
Hi again, everybody, and welcome back to the United Center, and that's the reason for the excitement in this game. When you gather 6 of the greatest of all time together to play, you have to go all the way back to the middle 80s when the Boston Celtics and the Los Angeles Lakers hooked it up. Larry Bird, McHale, and Parrish, even in that era. And of course, Magic Johnson along with Kareem Abdul-Jabbar and James Worthy.
The mid-90s NBA wasn't short on powerhouse teams, but the 1996-97 Houston Rockets carried a special kind of buzz. They weren't just talented, they were loaded with names that defined the era. Hakeem Olajuwon, Clyde Drexler, and Charles Barkley. 3 Hall of Famers, 3 MVP-caliber players, 3 men who, on their own, had carried franchises and built legacies. Together, they were supposed to be unstoppable. The foundation was Hakeem. Fresh off 2 championships earlier in the decade, Olajuwon was still one of the most dominant centers the game had ever seen. His footwork, finesse, and defensive mastery made him a nightmare in the paint.
I got no chance of losing, none at all. Olajuwon, he was in the top 10 in 5 categories: steals, rebounds, block shots, scoring, and shooting percentage. To have a big guy of his size to be in the top 10 in steals. Now you can assume that he would be in blocks, which to me shows versatility of what type of guy he really was.
Next to him was Clyde Drexler, the longtime Portland Trailblazer who had reunited with Olajuwon in Houston, a versatile guard forward with elite scoring and playmaking ability. Drexler brought balance and veteran leadership. Jordan was well familiar with Drexler's game and knew what he was capable of.
Clyde was a threat. I'm not saying he wasn't a threat, but me being compared to him, I took offense to that.
I'm working for NBC. I'm covering the finals. So the night before game 1, we were at Michael's house playing cards, and he said, "You know what's gonna happen tomorrow. I'm gonna give it to this dude."
And then came the biggest splash of all. Charles Barkley, traded to Houston in the summer of 1996. Barkley was the final piece, a relentless rebounder, fierce competitor, and one of the most outspoken stars of the game.
The one moment that I can pick with Charles, we were playing Philly in the playoffs, and I guess I got into a hot rhythm, and I had about 40-some points, and Charles was yelling. I can hear him yelling in the huddle, talking about, "Who's going to guard this guy? Somebody's got to guard this guy. That's all right. I guard this guy." So I go in, and we're playing, and we got into a switch, and Charles jumps out and guards me. And yeah, I never known Charles as a defensive stopper. So the first thing he does, he breaks down in this defensive position with hands up. Everything looks technically right. And I just laugh. I say, when the hell are you going to start playing defense? And who taught you how to get in a defensive stance? And I had to pass it.
On paper, this trio looked like the perfect formula to challenge Chicago's throne. The Bulls had the dynasty, but Houston had the firepower. Analysts circled the matchup as a true clash of titans. Jordan and Pippen against a super team that seemed built in a lab to dethrone them. By the time January 11th rolled around, the Rockets were 27-9, sitting among the West's elite. They had the size, the scoring, and the experience. To many, they weren't just another tough opponent. They were the team that could finally push Michael Jordan to the brink. However, in the East, the Chicago Bulls were more than just a great team. They were a cultural force. The previous season, they had stormed through the league with a then-record 72 wins, reclaiming the championship after Jordan's first retirement. Now, in their follow-up year, they weren't easing off the gas. The Bulls entered the night against Houston with the swagger of a dynasty fully aware of its own power.
What drove us this year was a lot of the players on our team never experienced this type of winning, and not as rapidly as we did. From Randy Brown to Steve Kerr to Judd Boucher. A lot of these guys have been on other teams that have never won.
And the bench delivers again.
So the motivation was even greater, not just from your starting five, not just from Scottie Pippen, myself, Dennis Rodman, the guys who have experienced it before, but from the guys who were on the bench supporting and coming in and relieving us of minutes. You know, they wanted it more than we did because they've never experienced anything like this in their lives.
Michael Jordan was once again leading the league in scoring, showing no signs of decline despite being in his mid-30s. He had evolved his game from explosive acrobatics to ruthless efficiency, picking apart defenses with mid-range jumpers, post-ups, and an unshakable competitive fire. Around him, the pieces fit seamlessly. Scottie Pippen was the league's ultimate do-it-all star, guarding every position, facilitating the offense, and serving as Jordan's trusted lieutenant. Dennis Rodman patrolled the boards with unmatched intensity, often turning rebounding into a psychological battle as much as a physical one. Surrounding them was a roster built to win. Ron Harper bringing length and defense in the backcourt, Tony Kukoc providing versatility and scoring off the bench, Luke Longley anchoring the middle, and Steve Kerr stretching the floor with timely shooting.
Scottie Pippen, Dennis Rodman, Tony Kukoc, Ron Harper would be better today. They would be better players today, in my opinion. Michael Jordan, Scottie Pippen, Dennis Rodman, Tony Kukoc, they would be better. There's no hand checking Michael Jordan, Scottie Pippen, Tony Kukoc.
I'm just saying that there's no. That tweet's fast. You forgot Ron Harper on that list.
No, Ron Harper and he'd be great defensively. Ron Harper was a hell of a player.
I know, but you're going to rattle those guys off. Do it again. Who are those guys?
Michael Jordan, Scottie Pippen.
Come on, that wasn't close. Come on.
But my point is this, Chuck. Those guys are great. They're great.
This wasn't just talent, it was cohesion. Phil Jackson's triangle offense gave everyone a role, and the team's chemistry was unmatched. Opponents knew what was coming, but struggled to stop it. For Chicago, every game was more than a test. It was a statement. They carried the weight of being the standard, the team everyone measured themselves against. And Jordan, the fiercest competitor of them all, relished that pressure. So, when a supposed super team like Houston came knocking, the Bulls didn't shrink from the spotlight. They welcomed it. Because in 1997, facing the Bulls wasn't just about basketball. It was about survival against a machine built around the greatest player in the world. The opening quarter immediately showed the gap between hype and reality. Houston came out tight, missing shots and searching for rhythm, while Chicago set the tone with discipline and intensity. The Rockets shot a miserable 28.6% from the field, 6 of 21, in the first quarter. Even with Hakeem Olajuwon working inside for 4 quick points and Charles Barkley battling on the glass, Houston couldn't find efficiency. Drexler hit just 1 of 3, and the team's spacing looked cramped as they forced tough shots against Chicago's defense.
Joe off the street.
Olajuwon to the middle on Whittington, got the roll, and the game is tied at 6.
Meanwhile, the Bulls, though not red hot themselves, executed with balance. They hit 10 of 29 shots, 34.5%, but the difference came from control. Michael Jordan scored 6 points on 2 of 4 shooting, knocking down his lone 3 and asserting himself as the focal point. Scottie Pippen added another bucket while doing damage on the boards, pulling down 4 rebounds in the quarter.
Barkley, Drexler behind the back, blocked by Pippen. Oh, Ellie had it right. Michael Jordan. We've got a timeout on the court. Let's watch that block one more time as Ellie is denied at the rim. Here's a word from
Dennis Rodman was his usual menace, grabbing 4 rebounds and disrupting Barkley's attempts to dominate inside. Ron Harper chipped in 5 points, while the bench gave early energy. Tony Kukoc scored 4 quick points, showing Chicago's depth. By the end of the first, Houston trailed despite Barkley's activity. 3 points, 3 rebounds, and Olajuwon's presence. Their stars looked active but scattered. Chicago, on the other hand, looked composed, with Jordan calmly steering the ship.
Dynamite waiting to happen. Maloney is stuck on Kukoc. They go instead to Jordan, and that's the first basket for Michael Jordan.
Well, you know, he's going to start.
Jordan on the post. Got Ellie behind him. All right, Jordan can just about get his shot whenever he wants to. He's one of the few players I've ever seen play.
The United Center crowd could already sense it. This wasn't going to be a night where Houston's super team flexed its muscle. It was Jordan's stage, and the opening quarter proved he was more than ready to own it.
In his favor.
Kukoc to Rodman, tried to pass it off. Whittington did a good job of saving it. Jordan, tough shot. Oh, man, Ellie almost blocked it, and Jordan nailed it.
If the first quarter belonged to Jordan's control, the second showed Houston stars weren't going to roll over. Hakeem Olajuwon reminded everyone why he was still one of the most skilled big men alive. In just over 10 minutes, he scored 9 points on 4 of 7 shooting, even hitting a rare 3-pointer to give the Rockets some momentum.
But nevertheless, he's gonna be involved in the offense. You have to watch him.
Olajuwon put up a 3 and hit it with 2 seconds left on the shot clock.
Clyde Drexler and Matt Maloney chipped in with efficient buckets, while Charles Barkley acted as a facilitator, dishing out 3 assists in his short run. Houston as a team finally found its rhythm, shooting a blistering 56% from the field in the quarter. But as dangerous as the Rockets looked, the Bulls had an answer in their depth. Michael Jordan played sparingly this second period, scoring just 2 points, but the role players stepped up. Jason Caffey was the unexpected spark, scoring 9 points on 3 of 6 shooting while battling inside for 4 rebounds. Tony Kukoc knocked down a smooth 3. Randy Brown and Steve Kerr added timely buckets, and Chicago's bench kept the energy high.
Last night, Caffey didn't play a lot.
Well, I tell you what, he's playing a lot tonight because he's real active. That ball was just out of the reach of Olajuwon just a little bit, where Caffey was able to capitalize on it.
The contrast was clear. Houston leaned heavily on their stars to spark life, while Chicago trusted its system. Even when Jordan wasn't scoring in bunches, the Bulls machine kept running smoothly. By halftime, the Rockets had closed the gap, but the balance of power still tilted toward Chicago. Jordan had conserved energy, the bench had done its job, and the stage was set for him to turn it back on when the moment demanded it. The second half is where the Bulls reminded everyone why they were the defending champions. Michael Jordan, quiet by his standards in the first 2 quarters, came out of halftime with a different gear. In just under 20 minutes of action, he poured in 22 points on 7 of 13 shooting, including a blistering 4 of 5 from deep.
Harper gets a pick from Whittington. Maloney stays with him. Jordan at the 3-point line. Michael Jordan with a 3.
He didn't just score, he facilitated, pulling down 4 rebounds and dishing 4 assists. showing that his control over the game went beyond putting the ball in the basket.
No problem taking that shot.
Jordan came over and steals the ball. 3 seconds left. Over to Scottie Pippen with a layup.
But what made Chicago so lethal wasn't just Jordan, it was the collective punch. Scottie Pippen picked his spots perfectly, adding 13 points on 5 of 8 shooting, including 3 triples, while orchestrating the offense with 6 assists. Tony Kukoc was the ultimate X factor off the bench, catching fire for 17 points on 7 of 8 shooting. Every time Houston thought they had a window, Kukoc stretched the floor and made them pay.
It's 2 seasons. Starting to put it away.
And then there was Dennis Rodman. While the Rockets struggled on the glass, Rodman vacuumed up everything in sight, grabbing 14 rebounds in the half to go along with 6 points. His relentless effort tilted possessions in Chicago's favor and frustrated Houston's bigs, especially Charles Barkley, who shot 0 for 5 in the half and couldn't impose himself.
27 for 3. I tell you what, he came out to be big.
For 2.
Houston Stars, meanwhile, couldn't match the wave. Hakeem Olajuwon battled valiantly with 14 points and 4 boards. But Clyde Drexler shot just 1 of 6, and Barkley's quiet night underscored the gap. The Rockets managed just 34% shooting after halftime compared to Chicago's sizzling 64%, a gulf that told the whole story. The Bulls didn't just rely on Jordan, they overwhelmed Houston with depth, precision, and energy. By the time the fourth quarter wound down, it wasn't about whether Chicago would win, but by how much. The second half was a showcase of a dynasty at full power. The final buzzer at the United Center sealed more than just a win. It handed Jordan another legendary performance for the ages. The Chicago Bulls beat the Houston Rockets 110-86 in a game that became a showcase for Michael Jordan's dominance. Jordan poured in 32 points, going 12 of 25 from the field, including 4 of 6 from 3 and a perfect 4 of 4 at the line. He wasn't just scoring, he was dictating pace, breaking Houston's spirit possession by possession. Every shot carried a message. Every move left the Rockets chasing shadows.
Jordan goes to work on Randy Livingston. Tough jumper, got it. Bench has done here in this game tonight. Much to the Bulls' favor. Michael taking it inside the free throw line for 2. And this is the largest lead.
Houston Stars couldn't answer. Hakeem Olajuwon battled valiantly with 29 points, hitting 12 of his 25 attempts. But even his strong outing wasn't enough to keep the Rockets afloat. Charles Barkley, normally a force in big moments, was bottled up and limited to only 8 points all night. Clyde Drexler, once Jordan's fiercest rival, managed just 7 points, never finding his rhythm against Chicago's smothering defense. The numbers told the broader story. Chicago shot nearly 49% from the field and knocked down half of their threes, while Houston stumbled at just 37% overall and 27% from deep. The Bulls also owned the glass, out-rebounding the Rockets 59-44, denying them any chance to build momentum through second-chance opportunities.
Behind him, Pippen comes over to help. Barkley put it up, Kukoc with a block.
As the clock wound down, Jordan didn't just close the game, he closed the debate. The Rockets super team had been humbled, their Hall of Fame firepower reduced to supporting roles in another Jordan masterpiece. On January 11, 1997, the crown stayed in Chicago, and Jordan once again reminded the world whose league it really was. That game in January didn't just showcase a single win, it foreshadowed the diverging paths of both franchises. For the Chicago Bulls, the blowout over Houston was another checkpoint in a season of near perfection. They rolled through the regular season with a 69-13 record, just a year removed from their historic 72-10 campaign. Jordan, at 34 years old, claimed his 9th scoring title at 29.6 points per game and added yet another MVP trophy to his collection.
Congratulations, 1995-96 NBA Most Valuable Player.
More importantly, the Bulls rode their dominance all the way to the finals, where they defeated the Utah Jazz in 6 games, giving Jordan his 5th NBA championship. That victory cemented the Bulls' second three-peat as inevitable, and nights like the rout of Houston showed why they were untouchable.
Russell to inbound, looking, skipped across, Pippen to steal, Scotty saves it to Tony, he runs it again, the Bulls win!
Have won their 5th championship in the last 7 years.
They do it, the drive for 5.
For the Houston Rockets, the game highlighted both the promise and the cracks of their veteran super team. With Olajuwon, Barkley, and Drexler, expectations were sky high, but consistency was elusive. They finished the year 57-25, strong enough for the 3rd seed in the West and advanced to the Western Conference Finals. But there, they ran into John Stockton and Karl Malone's Utah Jazz, falling in 6 games to a devastating buzzer beater. It was a reminder that while the Rockets had star power, age, and depth were working against them. That loss effectively marked the beginning of the end for Houston's short-lived run as a contender.
Stockton, open 3, good! John Stockton sends the Utah Jazz to the NBA Finals.
Russell to Stockton, Stock for 3, Stock, got it, unbelievable, John Stockton, it's over, the Jazz win it.
In the big picture, that night was more than a statement win for Chicago. It was a snapshot of the NBA hierarchy that season. Jordan and the Bulls were still at the top, while Houston's super team remained just a step below, always chasing but never quite catching the dynasty in H-Town.
We were a little bit older. I thought I was joining a super team to some degree, but it just didn't work out. You know, we just didn't have the right chemistry, and you know, we were aging a little bit. You know, I felt like that it wasn't a good fit for me. Obviously, coming off a second back surgery, I needed a little more youth around me. I didn't realize how much Hakeem had diminished in the game, I'm gonna be honest. And I didn't realize Charles wasn't as dedicated as I thought he would.
When the Bulls and Rockets clashed that night in Chicago, it was supposed to be a showcase of 2 titans colliding. Instead, it became another entry in the growing list of reminders that Michael Jordan stood on a level of his own. Against 3 Hall of Famers, Jordan didn't just compete, he controlled. Every possession carried his imprint, from the mid-range daggers to the suffocating defense that shut down Houston's biggest weapons. What made it so unforgettable wasn't just the stat sheet, but the aura. Jordan dictated the pace, bent the Rockets' defense, and made a team built to challenge him look powerless. Even legends like Barkley, Olajuwon, and Drexler couldn't stop the inevitable. Nights like this defined the Bulls' dynasty, not because they were routine, but because Jordan made the extraordinary feel expected. For Chicago, it was another step toward the mountaintop, part of a season that would end in triumph. For Houston, it was a hard truth. Even with elite talent, the margin between greatness and true dominance was wider than anyone wanted to admit. Decades later, this game still resonates because it captures the essence of Jordan's reign. He didn't just beat his rivals, he humbled them, and in doing so, he reminded the world why the NBA crown never really left his head. Michael Jordan didn't play to prove he was the best. He played to remind everyone else there was no debate.